All right, we are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. The number is 737-7587 if you want to join in the conversation. Burns Phillips is with us this morning. He is the Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, along with Deniece Thomas, also works over there at the agency. And as we went to the break, I was talking about what part of the state maybe is the hottest right now growth-wise. I'm just guessing it's here. But, you know, in terms of the East and the West, what is the job outlook? Break it down for me, Deniece.
We certainly are seeing a tremendous amount of job growth in the Middle Tennessee area.
Good paying jobs?
Good paying jobs.
Okay. Because you need a lot of money to live downtown.
You do.
Okay.
You need a lot of money.
So $70,000 a year.
That's right. That's right.
We do recommend, though, because there are other parts across the state where we're also seeing a revitalization of a healthy job market. And the best way to access that information is by getting on our website, thejobs4tn.gov.
Okay, and again, it's 4, the number 4.
The number 4.
All right.
Because there it allows you to really go through our extensive amount of labor market information, look at area profiles if there's a county you're interested in, or if you just want to know where the growth is. It's available right there for you to do a little research. And more importantly, if you're looking for opportunities, make yourself available for the whole state. A lot of folks go in and they just select the county in which they reside. If you're open and you're willing to move to where the action is, select the entire state, or you can select the counties that you are interested in if you just want to remain in the Middle Tennessee region. But there's wonderful information that will tell you the hiring employers. It'll even tell you the average number of applicants for every job opening, so you know how competitive the market is. And that's incredible data. That's incredible data. Helps you make informed decisions about your job search.
That's interesting. And by the way, we had the number up, and we'll put it up again along with the website before the end of the show. I know not everyone has access to computers, so we have a phone number for you that you can call as well. I'm wondering, too, I remember when you've been on with me in prior programs, we'd talk about some of the openings and the job fairs, how crowded they'd be, and then we had an idea of how many individuals are applying for one opening that's a coveted opening. And it could be dozens of people. I'm hoping at some point now, and I'm sure that's true for some of the really plum jobs, but that number's shrunk a bit. You're not competing with quite as many folks, right? Would you say? Is there? I don't know if there's a number there anymore. I mean, for every decent job opening out there, what are there in general? 20 applicants, 50 applicants, 10 applicants? Any idea?
There's a lot of variation there, and again, as you mentioned, it really depends on the job.
But in general, I bet it's smaller.
It is shrinking. It is shrinking.
So there's not as much competition for you to have to go after to get one of these jobs.
Sure, and I'll tell you something else that's driving the number shrinking is employers. A lot of them don't want to see 20 applicants for one opening anymore. And so when they're connecting inside of our Jobs for TN system, they get to determine the number of applicants they want to see for that job. So they may only want to talk to 5. And they want the best of the best for those 5, and because again, it takes a lot of effort and energy to screen through that many applicants for one position. Right,
exactly. So if they can limit it to just the ones that they're most interested in at that point, then that saves everyone time.
Absolutely.
More and more people do that. I was trying to remember one of the counties that was hardest hit years ago. I remember going there. It was like 30% unemployment, something crazy. Who knows? Pickett County, right? Does that ring a bell? How's Pickett County?
I think it's around 4%.
Is it?
In May, I think it was a little over 4%.
But it's gotten better there. I just remember going there years ago when it was just like, man, there was nothing going on there. I felt bad. Now, it's a small county. It's rural. Not a ton of people, but there weren't a lot of jobs. Now, I'm talking about some of these rural ones outside Davidson and Williamson, Middle Tennessee. How are you able to get jobs there for them, or are they having to look to move?
Well, one thing that the governor did is he created the rural task force, and that's comprised of a number of departments, business leaders, educators, things of that nature, who did a study about the condition of the rural counties, and we have a significant number in Tennessee.
You're right.
And you have to have that kind of information to know exactly what you may need to do in any given county. And there are different programs that are underway. Some are focused at one county, others are areas, to try to improve the job prospects in the rural counties. And addressing such things as, you mentioned a while ago, access to a computer, whether or not there's that capacity in some of these very rural counties, things of that nature. So the governor's making a concerted effort to improve the availability of jobs in rural counties.
And that would be maybe trying to attract some kind of businesses that might. Now, again, it's like, what's the workforce? What's the location? Is there an interstate nearby? All that kind of stuff comes into play. But if they could bring any kind of business there, and that's where, you know, the governor in the state tries to model or show what this county has to offer.
It also involves, and Deniece can speak a little bit more to it, it also involves dealing with companies that are already there to help them in growing their business, improving their business.
They give them tax breaks? What do they do?
Well, you want to talk about the business teams?
Sure, sure. We have connected to all of our American Job Center network across the state business services teams, and they're interfacing with businesses every day to assess their workforce needs. Some companies are primed for growth, but workforce becomes a very real conversation on how we're going to do that, where we're going to find the skilled workers. And in rural communities where the populations are a lot smaller, we have to contend with how will we get the talent into them. And so working with those individuals and them working with businesses every day, we're able to develop plans of how we will look at the outlying labor shed communities and how we can transport talent into them. And one of the ways we do that as a department is the use of our mobile AJCs. So we have these brick and mortar locations, but we have a fleet of now of about 6 mobile AJCs that we can go to the people and we can go to the businesses and take our services there, which is very important. Yeah,
is it painted on the side?
It's painted.
Does it say American Job Center? What? It's wrapped. I knew it's probably wrapped.
It is.
American Job Center, and it rolls into town.
It rolls into town. It's easy to spot, and it's there for both job seekers and businesses, and also for our partners. It's important to note that our department collaborates with other state agencies and community agencies to deliver these services. And so as Commissioner mentioned, we pay attention to the small businesses there as well that are looking to expand, to ensure them they're going to have the talent that they need to do that, and to offer incentives to do that, whether it's incumbent worker training for the existing workforce to help them acquire new skills to maintain a competitive edge, or offer on-the-job training for new hires that they may bring on board. And that program is well utilized across the state, and we will offset wages for up to about 50% for new hires. So that really helps an employer save funds and be able to get a new workforce. And so that's a fairly popular program with businesses.
That's awesome. You were flipping through that. What were you looking at?
Right. We've mentioned before, I think, on your program that the Work Opportunity Tax Credit is one tool that's used to help people find jobs, and those are tax credits to businesses that hire certain categories of individuals, veterans, individuals on food stamps, vocational rehabilitation, and we changed that program. We made it digital about a year ago. It was a very cumbersome process before, and so through the first 3 quarters of this year, we've given out over $215 million in tax credits, and that has led to hiring about 68,000 people, something like that, because of that incentive to a business to hire someone.
Right. Man, it's really gotten better in recent years, hasn't it? Remember how bad it was? And now it's whatever you're doing is kind of working, isn't it?
Well, in 2010, like I said, the first 3 quarters, it was over 10% of Tennesseans were unemployed.
Yes.
You were up here and just like, God, what are we going to do? That wasn't your fault, but whatever. I mean, so we've reported this morning as we start wrapping things up, the good news at this point. So is there reason to believe that this trend, I suppose, will continue, or at some point will it taper off? We had a real estate person on the other day just talking about the market with the homes and the cost, and her observation was it seems like it's not a bubble bursting or anything, but that it's tapering a bit. Her word was stabilizing. So do we hope that the unemployment rate as it stands now at 3.6% and the economy as a general stabilizing, or are we continuing to hopefully see that go down? What do you think? What are the trends showing?
We see no immediate end to the growth that Tennessee is experiencing. I mean, it should continue for some time. Tennessee, when you travel across the country, other states ask the question, what is Tennessee doing? How are you doing what you're doing? And it's because we have a governor who has created a culture and an environment of collaboration, cooperation between departments so that we cross-pollinate to create ideas. And it's a perfect time because Tennessee is booming and taking advantage of these programs that we come up with together to entice people to come here. And if you just, again, as we mentioned earlier, if you look at construction, you can, at least in Nashville and some other metropolitan areas, it's all cranes and hammers and
I'm tired of giving out all these massive incentives. I know you don't do it. But you know what? If you don't want to come here now, don't come. Okay, I'll tell you, a lot of states ask how in the old days we got stuff. And I talked to friends of mine in other administrations, governors' offices, and said, I'll tell you how. They were at pitches. trying to pitch a business, and they made it what they thought was a decent pitch. And then when they saw what Tennessee was giving, they just rolled their eyes and said, we're not bothering with that. They're giving away the dang house. Because the incentives were absurd. Now, I'm hoping at some point some of that's dialed back. I know that's not your call, but that's one reason it happened, Burns, is that they gave out incentives to attract businesses here that were absurd. Now, whether or not in the long run that paid off, it's paying off now to some degree. I don't think we need to give out those incentives anymore to that degree. If you don't want to develop here, go somewhere else. We don't need you.
Well, that's not something that we're directly involved in.
I know,
but I can tell you that I've had the pleasure of working with 3 outstanding commissioners of economic community development, from Bill Haggerty to Randy Boyd and now Commissioner Rolfe. And it's the nature of the beast that you have to provide incentives. But I can say that more and more when business...
We're an attractive place to come now. We don't have to give out as much.
And their first interest now is not so much that type of incentive, it's about your workforce.
Okay.
Absolutely.
They want to know what kind of workforce you have.
Okay.
And can you have people who are qualified at my front door the day I open?
That's number one. That's number one thing?
That's the number one thing.
Okay. And then they also look at things like, as you said, healthcare that's around,
education, recreational opportunities, things of that nature.
Again, and all that stuff's great.
That's right.
So that's why, in terms of these massive tax breaks sometimes for them, I'm not so sure, we have to give that as much, because I think the job you guys have done elsewhere, we're a great place to come now as is.
Absolutely. And the fact that we have cooperation and collaboration and teamwork between departments is unique. Again, you can go to other states and they don't believe it. The way I actually talk to one another.
They just don't get along?
Well, it's just not in their culture. The governor created a culture where we actually sit and talk to one another, and we share ideas, we share resources, and a lot comes from that. And that's because of the culture he created and breaking down silos between departments.
That's crucial, and he's to get credit for that, because man, collaboration and cooperation and maybe compromise, they could take a clue from him in D.C. All right. Burns, you're awesome. Commissioner Phillips, it's nice
it's always a pleasure to be here, Nick.
Deniece, thank you for coming and tolerating me. You were very gracious and very good. We'll see you again sometime soon, perhaps. And as we leave, I want to remind folks, let's just remind folks, it's 9:30 on Thursday. Did you know is Inside Workforce Development? I mean, if you want to learn more about all this, you can tune in there.
Absolutely.
The host is terrific, from what I understand.
She is, absolutely.
She is.
All right, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. When I come back, programming note about tomorrow, as well as we're going to put up the information on the website and the phone number you can call for more information on jobs. We'll be back right after this.